Shorts. I got another small tutorial I want to show you. Today's world, a lot of people like to run their fuel tanks really low, and in most cars made from like 1996 on up have what they call in-fuel tank fuel pumps. They're no longer on the outside or on the engines or on the side of the blocks, any of that stuff. They're built inside the fuel tanks, and they use the fuel to keep cool. They don't use the ambient temperature or the wind or anything to keep them cool. So this poses a problem when your tank is empty or near empty. They overheat because in that fuel tank it's just like a sauna in there. It's really hot, and they turn to burn out because people don't know how to put gas in their cars. You should always have a running tank of about a quarter a tank of fuel in there, and this is why I'm going to tell you this. Let me show you here. I have a fuel pump right here. This is a generic fuel pump that you would see in any car. Here's the top of it. This is where your fuel lines are at, and your plug-in that plugs into your car, and then these hook to your, this is the feed line, this is the return line, this is the vacuum line, and most of them have some type of a meter or something like that on top of it. Anyway, this whole thing goes into your fuel tank. This, it's adjustable, so that's why it's spring tensioned, because they actually apply to a few different tanks. It's got a fuel meter already on the side of it to show, how much fuel is in it. And I just got to hook the arm up. Here's the arm right here. And inside this cup here is the fuel pump sitting inside here. And what happens is this fuel, on the bottom here, the fuel is allowed to go back in this thing and fill this cup up. Well, if you don't have enough volume of fuel in your tank, it's not going to pick it up, and this thing is really going to get hot. And whenever I pull these things out, the older ones, they're usually hard and cracked and ready to fall apart. And just to get rid of a myth, I get this all the time. Well, I run it low because I want to keep the bottom of my fuel tank clean. That is such a myth. It cracks me up. Because every time you put fuel in your tank, you're scouring up all that dirt and everything, and you have a fuel filter. I haven't seen one yet that doesn't have a fuel filter built onto the bottom of these things. These are a fuel strainer, and it cleans all the dirt out anyway. So I don't see the reasoning for, that's why I let it go low. And I find it really, disturbing that somebody will let their fuel go so low just to clean out the bottom of their tank. Common sense tells you that when you put liquid in something, it scurries up the bottom and the whole thing, and next thing you know, when you take off, the dirt's going to go towards, it's going to go towards the suction of this thing. So that theory is blown out the window. So don't worry about, cleaning the bottom of your tank and letting it go low. Every time you let your tank go below a quarter of a tank, when it's below quarter and empty, this thing is like there. And when you're there, that's where your pump's right here. So when you're about there, your pump is at the point of overheating, and it's building up a tremendous amount of heat. When you're a quarter of a tank and above, you're right about here and above. So I always recommend keep a quarter tank of fuel in your car or truck at all times. What I do is, because I don't use my truck a lot, and because I don't want anybody stealing the fuel out of it, because it's a lot of fuel, I keep a quarter tank in it, and that's all I keep in it. And I'll drive it. If I'm going to drive it anywhere, I'll put gas in it then, but 90% of the time I only keep a quarter tank in there, because if somebody takes it or tries to snatch the fuel like they've done once, shoot, I don't want all that 36 gallons laying all over the place like they did with me. So they probably got about 10 good gallons out of it and then left the hose in there and drained the rest of it. So I don't fill it up no more. But if you have a fuel pump that's ready to go, chances are this is what you're going to find in there. And I would say 90% of the vehicles out there, their fuel pumps look like this now. And you can take the pump out of there, This thing is, you can take it apart, but when they've been in the car for, quite a while, years, they usually are so brittle, these plastic things are so brittle, that once you start trying to take these top pieces apart, they just fall apart and you can't rebuild them. So unless you have somebody that's been doing it for a long time and knows how to work with, these plastic pieces, then I wouldn't attempt it. I'd just buy the whole thing. You could find these things on eBay and on Amazon, rockauto.com, all of them, they carry the whole thing. And I think I got this from Rock Auto for my truck. I always carry a spare when it comes to these, because you never know when they're going to go out. And when they do go out, the local stores, these are $300 at the local store. So this thing I got for $96, and it is OEM style. So it's the exact replacement for my truck. So anyway, with that, just remember, you start getting down to a quarter tank of gas, put some gas in there, make sure that you don't go below. That way you can keep your fuel pump running a long time, and the performance of your vehicle lasts a lot longer. So anyway, with that, that's Grandpa Shorts. I'm out.